then you don't want to be involved in sunset industries like, carbon fuels, etc. You'd always want to be in the growth segment, and most of those names do tend to be in the tech sector. So that would be the preference, yes.
And we've been seeing a little bit of volatility in treasury yields. So looking ahead, what's your prediction to the trend over there?
Yeah, so that's I guess the important bit which drives most of the markets. You had the Fed governor come out 2 days ago and talk about the fact that despite the fact that economic growth is really, really strong, you have a situation where the pandemic, in their view, is not really taken well care of, and as a function of that, they're going to continue to keep yields at the lower end. They're buying about $120 billion worth of securities, every single month. That's very, very strong. You have a situation where they're looking at everyone who's lost their job in the last 1 year coming back to work. So you're talking about 8 to 9 million people. They're talking about inflation only being transient at this point of time, and as a function of that, you have a situation where yields are going to be depressed for some time, and on the back of that, you're going to have markets pretty well bid.
And this Friday, a flurry of US oil giant, energy giant, will release their earnings results. And do you like the energy sector in the market?
Yes. Not particularly, meaning that there are some elements which companies which are switching from old energy to the new energy sector, hydrogen, solar, wind, for that matter, would be where we would have our preferences. Companies which are finding that really hard to do, we would tend to avoid them.
Everybody's saying that central banks are pulling off the safety net would be a gradual process. So how gradual it will be?
Well, I guess, if you go back to the Fed, that's something which I think is going to be a big driver. Powell actually talking about the fact that inflation is transient, and, he needs everyone to be employed, people who've lost their jobs. That's going to take, at least 3 to 6 months. And after that, they're only going to start talking about tapering, which is going to take longer. I think if you look just north of the border in Canada, you've had a situation where the Bank of Canada is already talking about tapering, and that's a sign of confidence in the economy, as well as to a certain extent a sign of prudence, because they don't want the excessive money supply to continue to be in the markets. They want to rein that in.
And we are seeing that because of very solid economic performance recovery, but on the other hand, like safe haven assets like gold prices have been dropping recently. So what's your forecast to the trend of the gold price performance?
Yeah, so gold has sold off a lot, but it is finding some amount of support at about the 1700 levels. I guess as an alternative to financial assets, gold historically has done very well, but the new kid on the block, cryptocurrencies, seem to be absorbing a lot of flows. It's an extremely volatile space, but if you look at various participants, including now institutional participants, you've had Tesla take allocations to Bitcoin, you've had Square do the same. Lots of companies are lining up to allocate to what they feel is going to be the new best thing to be into compared to being in financial assets. So gold, is not attracting as much of the flows as before, but heading into the lower levels, is a good tactical buy.
All right, Edmund, thank you so much indeed for your insights. Edmund Gomes, Chief Investment Officer with SGMC Capital. We're still ahead on Asia First. Hundreds in Hong Kong now under quarantine after the city reports its first untraceable local case involving a mutated strain of COVID-19.
Look forward to brighter skies. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Literally, the second I turned around, I saw a wall of yellow and orange.
When there's a critical burns case in Asia, the Singapore General Hospital's burns centre is ready.
Her chance of survival might be 10%.
There was an emergency exit, but it was engulfed in flames.
We had to act fast. We had to act decisively.
Into the unknown. Doctors on Call, Sunday on CNA.
我是劳人，这是我的爸爸 Gil， 这是我的弟弟 Adam， 这是我的妈妈 Morgan.
The Foucaults are from France. It's are the Le Chatelier family.
One of our sons is born here, so definitely also it makes a special link.
But both families have made Singapore their second home. What is life like in their home away from home? Wednesday on CNA.
Malaysia is seeing what many are calling a new dawn. There's a sense of anticipation, a hope of change for the better. I'm here to make sense of these changes taking place and bring you stories from a country that's charting a new direction for its future.
This is Asia First.
Good Friday morning. It is 8 a.m. here in Singapore. I'm Julie Yu. Our top story this hour. Political gamble amid a pandemic. Exit polls suggest Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's party is poised for significant gains in a key state election, but he may not secure a majority. His campaign rallies, along with religious festivals, are being blamed for the country's ferocious second wave of COVID-19. I'm Avril Hong. Also this morning, India now. U.S. government officials advise American citizens to head for the exits as the country's COVID-19 a devastatingly bad situation that is actually beyond bad. And as U.S. President Joe Biden prepares to mark 100 days in office, we continue our look at his policies with a focus on the complicated Middle East region. As the Commander-in-Chief says, terrorism has evolved in the 20 years since 9/11.
We have to remain vigilant against the threats to the United States wherever they come from. Al-Qaeda and ISIS are in Yemen, Syria, Somalia, other places in Africa, the Middle East, and beyond.
I'm Henry Yin with Business News. Fresh data out of Japan shows industrial output in March bounced back in a big way, far surpassing forecasts and the level seen in February. Plus, DBS posts record Q1 earnings, with Southeast Asia's largest lender seeing net profit double from the previous quarter, crossing 2 billion Singapore dollars for the first time in its history. We'll break down the scorecard for you.
Elections in India are often likened to a festival of democracy, but in a country crushed by a raging virus, these very elections are being blamed for the death and despair all around. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who has been criticized for holding large rallies amid a staggering pandemic, is set to make significant gains in a fiercely contested state election. Exit polls show he may not win a majority, but in a state where his ruling party, the BJP, has been an outlier, his party will likely secure more seats than as ever before.